Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Yoav, and I lead the Wix Hub product training team here at Wix. We also have my colleagues here from our customer care team who will be happy to answer any questions that you have in the Q&A tab, so feel free to ask away throughout our time together. Did you know that over 93% of website traffic comes from search, and that there are 4.2 billion active social media users? And that if you invest $1 in email marketing, you have an average return rate of $41. If you're watching this webinar, if these stats are interesting to you, and if you have a website that's about to be launched, if you've just launched it, it's time to take it to the next level by driving traffic to it from various places. In today's agenda, that's exactly what this is exactly what we will be reviewing. We want to first talk about creating the right content, and that content we're going to be placing it in 3 channels. First of all, we'll be setting up SEO, our search engine optimization. We'll be talking about engaging our audience in social media channels, and finally, how to send out email marketing and engage people again through their inbox. Now, I'll also mention that we'll be sending our essential guide for driving traffic to your email once this webinar is done, along with the recording of this webinar itself. So be sure to look out for it in your inbox. And we'll also be using Kelly, a travel blogger who we've made up, but she's based in Miami, and she writes a travel blog to showcase both local and international travel. We'll be using her as an example of a website that is ready to go and draw in traffic, but needs to gain exposure. The principles that we'll be talking about and implementing through Kelly as a case study are going to be relevant for her, but also going to be relevant for any other website that you might be working on as well. So let's talk about the general approach to the channels that we'll be working with today. SEO, or search in this case, is where we'll be exposing our website to the world. So Google is a good example of a search engine, and we'll be driving traffic to our website from one of the largest resources that we have in the world. Now, search engines are where your audience will be looking for websites similar to yours, and many times with general search words, and we'll be talking about these a little bit later. Secondly, we'll be talking about social media. This is where we want to focus on potential audiences like Facebook groups, where we have a bigger potential for quality engagement with the right audience. And finally, when we speak about an owned audience, or in other words, people who have visited our website already or come from existing networks, this is where we want customers who have engaged with us to continue the conversation. Now, one of the ways that we will do this is by using email marketing, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today in that channel. But for any of our channels that we'll be discussing today, we want to make sure that we have the right quality content set up for each of them. Each channel has its differences, it has its own needs. We want to make sure that that we're creating or updating the content as it needs to be, as optimized as possible, and make it as optimized as possible for each one of our channels. Now, some of this content you may have already created, but we want to make sure that your site stands out, and so reviewing this is a good thing to do at this stage. Let's look at each channel's needs briefly and see what we have. So if we look at search engines, we want to make sure that we have the correct titles and headers on each page. We also want to make sure that we have the correct page description for every one of the pages on our site. We also want to make sure that we have the alt text, or what we call text-based explanations for our images, putting the correct context for Google. So Google understands what we have in our images and can display these to the people, to whoever's searching for our website and relevant images. And as a best practice, we also recommend installing a blog. And this is the easiest way to continuously add additional content as your website grows. If we speak about social media, it's important to remember that visual content is king, and we'll talk about this quite a bit when we get to speaking about social media. In addition to that, using images, stories, videos is a great way to tell your brand story, and also help you stand out, versus the competition that you have on various social media channels. And finally, just remember that social media is where your audience spends quite a bit of time. So it's a great place to push promotions and special offers when you have them. Finally, with our owned audience, this is the place where people have engaged with you. And so there are a few tools to use to engage with them, to continuously engage with them. But again, we'll be talking about email marketing. And here we have 3 examples of campaigns or email marketings, emails that can be sent out to them. Things like announcements, where we have special occasions on our site, things like launchings of a new product line, or newsletters with ongoing updates that are periodically sent out to our base of users who have signed up for our site. And also special promotions, around seasons, special events, offers like discount coupons and those sort of things. The inbox is a great place to place these things so that people who have connected with you already can open it and then do something on your site. So to summarize this part, we want to make sure that all the content that we have matches the needs for each one of our channels. And there are, of course, other options out there, but this is a good starting point to review the current status of your site and start coming up with a plan that we'll put together to continue drawing traffic or start drawing traffic on our site. And when I say the word plan, this is exactly what we'll need to do. And this is where we'll be spending the majority of our time today. When we want to draw traffic to our site, the base of doing so is really creating a good plan. And this is going to include three main parts. Number one, the actual planning, what we want to do. So for Kelly, for example, for her travel blog, maybe she wants to create a Facebook campaign with a special offer with hotels or special offers with hotels that she's been working with in the Miami region. The next part will actually be taking our plan and executing it. So for Kelly, it will be going onto Facebook and running that campaign in, say, travel groups or people who are interested in, coming to the Miami region, finding them and actually executing it. And finally, learning from our plans, seeing what the numbers are of customers who engaged with it, who came to the website and who eventually booked a room, in Kelly's case, through her website. And today's session, we'll be talking mainly about the planning and execution. And we'll get to about the learning stage later on, but we'll be focusing again on planning and executing, at least at this stage. So if you're ready, I am. Let's go. Let's first talk about search. Okay, what is search? So search engine optimization is the way that people are going to find us on search engines like Google. Now, remember that this translates to how we actually help search engines easily index our site so that they can then offer it to anyone who has searched for the relevant words that are related to what we do. So why is SEO so important? First of all, it is the key for finding organic traffic that will be brought to our site. It can also be potentially the main source of traffic for your site, depending on how you set it up, and it'll bring in new visitors who are interested in what you're offering. So for our travel blogger, Kelly, anyone who searches for travel tips around Miami and finds her website with relevant content will be drawn to engage with her and continuously come to her website, to see what she's offering. Finally, once it's established, and this does take some time, SEO can be a great way to create a steady stream of traffic for the long term to your site. So now that we understand the why, let's talk about the actual plan that we want to put together. And here are a couple of tips. First of all, we want to make sure that we're thinking like our clients. Okay, what do I mean by that? I mean, thinking how they're going to go into Google and actually search for the services or products that you're offering. A great tip is to actually speak to them. Find out how they use search engines, find out how they search for what they're looking for, and then cater your keywords and everything that you'll be researching to their needs. And that's where also we go and select the right keywords that we want to place eventually into the execution of our SEO plan. Now, I said we can also we can speak to people and understand how they use Google. Another tip is to actually use multiple tools that we have there out there online that will help you do some research on keywords and understand how people are searching for, again, your specific niche. The next thing that we'll need to do is actually create the content that matters to your visitors and have a plan to continuously create more content. If you remember, I spoke about a blog, and our one of our best practices or recommendations is to install a blog. That's going to be the easiest way to continuously create content that's going to place you in a good your SEO profile in a good place to make sure that people are finding you. And finally, think of links, both internal and external, that are relevant to your business, that are relevant to your online presence, and that can be added to your site, because this is going to, again, help when Google indexes you or when people are searching for you, connect you to the relevant people in the relevant places on the internet, and just, again, get more exposure. So let's see how it works, guys. I'm going to go here to our dashboard. Here we have Kelly's travel site. This is the dashboard, as you've probably seen it before. And if we go here under marketing and SEO and go to get found on Google, we're going to launch our SEO tool that's going to help us create a plan to get our website indexed pretty quickly and as best possible. What we want to do is we want to come up with some sort of result like this, where we have both the heading of the page, the title of the page, as well as the description as best catered to Google as possible. Now, to do that, it's very easy to get started. We're going to start now. We're going to give our website a name if it's not the exact name that we want. So Kelly's Travel Site. If we are an online blog or whatever it is, we can choose know that it's online, or if we do have a physical location, we can offer that location over here as well. And the next thing we'll be doing, and this is based on our keyword research, is we'll be entering those keywords that we find, the top 3, into our SEO wizard. And here we'll just use travel blog, vacation in Miami, and local tourism. Again, we did our research. We found that these work best. This is what people look for. And so we'll add these. Once we click on create an SEO plan, what Wix is going to do is create a specific plan for our site. It's going to go through all the pages and look at the title, at the description, and many other things, and then offer us a plan which we're going to follow in order to, again, create the sitemap that we want to be as best catered for Google as possible. Now, there are specific steps that will be highlighted in green, and these are working great. So our homepage's title for search results is catered. We don't need to review over that. We don't need to review that. But anything that has these red exclamation marks, we want to go and actually follow the plan that Wix is offering us. In this case, we want one keyword. We want our business site name, business or site name, and a text length between 50 and 300 characters here in the description of the page. And then we get an explanation where we actually go and implement this in our Wix editor. We're going to follow this plan from everything in step 1 from top to bottom until we get here to our connect to our site to Google Search Console. When we have all these steps set up correctly, then we can actually go and directly connect our website to Google. And what this is going to do is just within a very short space of time, just a couple of clicks, we'll see our website indexed on Google, and then our website can be discovered. It will be ready to be discovered. Now, that's all great. This is the initial setup as we saw. The next step will actually be an ongoing effort. So things like moving on to step 2, optimizing our pages for search engines, things like adding alt text and other things, continuously creating additional content. We really have to think of additional plans to generate content, links, and other things so that our SEO profile is maintained and it grows over time as our website grows. Now, in Wix, we also have more advanced features for SEO. These you'll find also on your dashboard. So once we've completed the first stage, be sure to check out those advanced SEO tools that you can use to, again, maintain and grow your SEO profile. Now, in addition to organic SEO, there are additional steps that you can take in order to, again, grow your presence through search engines. The first is to create a Google Ads campaign. Most Wix premium plans do come with a coupon for using Google Ads, and this can be used to test those keywords that you found in your research. Again, you want to take this, you want to implement a test campaign, analyze it and see what happens, and then again, find out what keywords work best and what maybe work not as great. The second thing that you can do is to either import or create your Google My Business profile. And this will help you get discovered locally. Okay, a GMB or Google My Business profile will give you priority for being found on Google in search results and also on Google Map. And this will also help your business get things like reviews and ratings and engage just more with your potential customers. A complete profile also makes you look way more professional, and users will be more likely to leave reviews, add pictures, ratings, and so on and so forth. And this will all add up to creating a stronger presence to bring more traffic and create a larger reach for your site. Great. So moving on, we spoke about search engines. Let's talk about social media. Okay. And here's an interesting fact. Facebook posts with images see more engagement than those without images. We mentioned this at the beginning, so here it is again. And so with any kind of strategy that we'll be creating with social media, it always has to have within it something that's going to be visual, okay? Social media gives us various ways to catch our audience's attention where they hang out online. And it's important to understand a few things on social media when we start working with, again, various platforms. You have to remember that, first of all, your audiences might live across various platforms. So it's important to identify where they are and to work with the right ones. We want to put in our effort where we have the biggest chance of engaging with as many people from our target audience. Now, on social media, you can also target more specific audiences and communities, and we'll see how to do that in a little bit. But in any case, no matter what, no matter where your audience is, engaging with them on social media correctly means connecting to people who are most relevant to you. We still, though, need to identify where they are and what they might be interested in. So let's go back to Kelly, our travel blogger, and her travel blog. Let's think about, again, where she may be engaging with people. She'll do her research and come up and say like, okay, so Facebook and Instagram may be relevant for me. That's all good. But we also have to think what may be interesting for people to understand. And for Kelly, it may be that anyone who's traveling or planning to travel to the United States could be a good target. The question is where they are and what she can show them that will be exciting enough for them to click on and then come to Miami. So as we did before, let's now talk about coming up with a plan. And a three-part plan here, which is pretty simple to follow, but there are specific tips that we want to emphasize in each step. Number one, like you said before, we want to choose the right social networks. There are many out there. You want to make sure that you're doing the research and finding out where your audiences are most active. Secondly, we want to find relevant groups to advertise there. A quick tip here, you always want to make sure that you're following the admins and the network's rules. You don't want to get blocked or kicked out of somewhere and then lose the potential to get additional exposure to the people who are on that page or on that group or generally on that network. And finally, you want to come up with a proper social media strategy. Things like when is the best time to post, around the time of day of the week, surrounding specific holidays of the year. It really depends on coming up with the quality content that's going to be right for when to post. So for Kelly, for example, once she's decided on the platform that is most relevant, we said Facebook and Instagram, she might also decide that just before summer is the right time to catch people when they're planning their vacations to the United States. And this is going to be the right time for her to publish new articles on her Instagram feed and in some relevant Facebook groups. Now that we have our plan, let's talk about what we actually should be doing on social media. Firstly, open a page or a group and invite people to like, engage, follow, share, and so on, and help organically grow its exposure to their friends and their followers. Now, on your page or in your group, you want to remember to stick to your brand's colors, your tone of voice, etc. When you're advertising on your page or your group, you want your website to come across as best possible on your social media. The second thing that we're going to do is we're going to create content that's going to stand out. And remember, we spoke about visual content. So there are two things that we can use on Wix, two features that we can use on Wix to create this content. The first one is going to be our social posts feature. And here what we're going to get is we're going to get templates that are catered to the time of the week, as you can see here, for example, Sunday, and also the time of the year. So here we've got some trick or treat templates that are coming up because, again, we're close to October. But we can take any of these and start using them just like we do in the editor. We can go and edit the template. We can also start from scratch if we want. And it's easy to take any of the content that we see over here and customize it to be our own. So maybe Kelly now wants to speak about a recent trip that she did to Greece. Even if, by the way, if you don't have your own content on the website, you could always import here from media from Wix or from Unsplash. And you could also purchase any visuals that you want from Shutterstock directly. But Shelly, in this case, wants to talk about her recent trip to Greece. We're going to add that image over here, and we're going to change up some text here to say Greece travel daily with a little bit of a hashtag over here. There we go. We'll spread it out just a little bit. We'll place this in the center, just as you probably know from the Wix editor. And there we're pretty much ready to go. Now, when we click on next, what Shelly can do is post this out directly to her Facebook page and her Instagram feed. And you could also download this image to her computer and then use this on any other network that she wants. We can also save this to be used later if we'd like to. The second feature that we have here to help with to create social media visuals is our video maker. And what this is going to be is very similar to our social posts. A video maker with which you can easily create videos that can be posted with the best resolutions, ratios for for the most common networks like Instagram and Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, Twitter, and so on. We could take any one of these templates, or again, start from scratch, edit the visuals with images and videos of our own, place this instead of the default images that we get here, and just within a couple of minutes, we can post that to our Facebook page and Instagram feed, or download it to our computer and use that anywhere else that we'd like. So once we've created our content, it's now time to move on to what else we need to do. And it's not just about pushing out content on social media platforms. It's also about, well, being social and engaging with others. So posting, commenting, generally being supportive of groups and other people who are posting there will help push your brand. So remember, it's not a one-way street here. We want to make sure that we're pushing out content, but also engaging with other people's content so that the social media networks know who to present our content to. If you want to take your advertising on social media to the next level in a similar way to SEO, there's also the option to create paid social media campaigns. And this is going to be relevant for, again, each social network and how it works. On Wix, we have our own algorithm that will continuously optimize Facebook and Instagram campaigns, and this will soon be open to all of our users around the world. It's pretty easy to set up and simple. All you need to do is set up your ad type, your ad caption, a budget, and a target audience, and the algorithm will do all of the additional heavy lifting and find the target audiences that are most likely to visit your site. So be sure to check it out when you see it in your dashboard. Moving on, we're going to speak about our third and final channel, and that is our owned audience, people who we've already engaged with. And like we mentioned before, there are a number of tools that can be used, but we'll be talking about email marketing and why it's important. So seeing as we've invested in SEO and social media marketing, and we've brought people to our site, it's a good idea to also plan how to continue the relationship with people who have already engaged with us. And by owning these networks, you can leverage these connections and build relationships that are highly, highly, highly targeted. Websites that use email marketing see a lot more traffic, up to 8 times. Okay, so for zero acquisition costs, seeing as people have already become part of our audience, we can continue to serve them relevant content. So it's definitely something that's worth doing. Now, when we start using email marketing, again, we want to create a plan. That's the base of, again, any good plan to draw people back to our website. First and foremost, we want to build a mailing list. If we don't have an audience yet, we have to bring people into our site. Now, this could be from previous mailing lists that we have or from new visitors who have signed up for our site, but there are tips and tricks that we'll show you in a little bit on how to, again, connect to people from both from your site and from previous places. Secondly, just as before, we need to generate content. So let's go back to Kelly. Kelly wants to maybe write up about some new awesome restaurants that she found in the Miami region for anyone who's planning a trip there soon. Okay, she's going to go and review the restaurants. She's going to put them into a concise email, but she has to have that content ready to go so that she has the meat of something to send out to people. Thirdly, we have to think about timing. So Kelly has a restaurant reviews. We need to understand when is the right time for her to send that email out to her audience. So that's going to be most relevant for them to take action. Maybe it's close to the weekend where people are going, out more. That would be maybe a good time for her to target her audience and then send the email out then. And finally, in addition to the proactive emailing that we'll be showing you guys how to use in a couple of minutes, there are additional tools on Wix that we can use to send out automatic emails. These will trigger when specific things happen on your site. If you think about it, when someone purchases a product, we want to then send an email to say thank you. That's got our own brand and all these different things around it. So we can build up an automation to say when someone purchases something on my site, send out an email to them that's going to have such and such content. So let's look at what this looks like. Here we're in our video maker. We're going to go here under the marketing tab, back up to email marketing. And again, before we actually speak about creating our first campaign, we want to talk about creating our mailing list. Okay, so if we go to create our first campaign here, this is actually going to take us into our email tool. We'll come back to this in just a second. But what we can do over here is either use here our emailing list import tool, and this is going to take us here to our import tool. We can do one of two things: either import a CSV file or import from our Gmail account. Okay, and again, we can connect directly to our Gmail account and bring the relevant emails in. no matter how you want to do it, it's definitely worth doing before you send out your first email campaigns, connecting to the people who already come from your existing networks. Next, we're just going to go here. If it does take you out of the marketing tab, go back into the marketing tab and back to our email marketing. Once we have our mailing list set up, it's now time to actually create our campaign. And this is what we started creating before. I'm just going to go back here and edit this template. And again, we'll go back to Kelly with her reviews of restaurants in the Miami region. So Miami's best restaurants over there. And just like we used in the Wix editor, we can move content around. We can edit content. So I'm just going to change the image here. I don't have Kelly's restaurants just yet. So I'm just going to search the media from Wix for something that's going to be relevant. That's looking great. Beachside restaurant in Miami. And I can add additional content as I need to this email. Once it's ready, before I actually send it out, I probably want to preview and make sure that it looks great. And I'm going to do this by here, again, checking that it looks good on desktop and on mobile. And this is important because a lot of the recipients of your email are going to be on the go. We can also send out a test email if you wanted to make sure it's looking good on our actual devices, both our desktop and our mobile phones. So make sure to do that. And when you're happy with the email, you go back to editing mode, click on next, and then you can actually send out your email campaign. So here, just within a couple of minutes, we did all 4 of these things. We added our content, we reordered some elements, which you can do pretty easily. We customized the design and you can make it look as you need according to your brand's colors. And then, as we said before, you want to schedule or send it out immediately. And we do have a scheduling tool with which you can say, okay, this email campaign is going to go out on Friday afternoon at 2 p.m. when people are making their plans for a night out on the town in Miami, so they can book the restaurant that Kelly recommends. A couple of additional tips that we have for email marketing and best practices. Number one, we want to know our goal and choose what we want to promote. So restaurants in Miami is great because that's very, very specific. We also want to use short and compelling subject lines. This is the first thing that people are going to see in their inbox alongside your name. So you want to make sure that it's catching and engaging. We also want to make sure that we have clear and concise text in the email itself. We don't want to put too much text and have people get lost in reading something that's going to be too long. We also want to make sure that any CTAs, any calls to action that we have in the email, so any button that's going to bring someone to click on that and go somewhere, is going to be catered to the specific goal. So for restaurants, book now is a great piece of text to put in those buttons. We can also personalize the email with dynamic parameters. So we can put in the subject line and in the content of our email, things like the recipient's first name. It's always much nicer to get a personalized email. We want to research, as we mentioned before, the best time and date to send emails, and think mobile first. We cannot stress this enough. A lot of the people who will be receiving your email will be on their mobile phone. So you want to make sure you're testing your email, both using the Wix tool and also sending test emails, and making sure that those look great on any device, that you'll be opening. So guys, we're almost at the end of our webinar. It's time to summarize at least this part. Today, we've looked so far at planning and executing strategies for SEO, social media, and our owned audience using email marketing specifically. We recommend planning these out and making sure that when you execute them, that you're following what's happening, and finally, also learning from each round. And how do you learn from all these marketing efforts that you're putting a lot of, effort into? Well, there are a couple of tools that we have and we recommend. First of all, within Wix, you have Wix Analytics, and we can also generate reports, specific reports. We have general reports on how visitors are engaging on your site. Alongside that, we also have Google Analytics, Google Search Console, where you can see how people are searching for your site and how they're also behaving on your site. And there are many other additional tools out there that are great to use with your site and follow exactly what's happening when you launch a campaign or do something else in terms of marketing your site. Finally, you want to make sure that you keep tracking your campaign's performance and make sure that you're making data-driven decisions based on what's happening with your campaign. You want to make sure that, again, you're going from strength to strength and building on your successes, learning maybe from things that you can maybe improve on. And that's going to be based on data that you're receiving from each time that you do this plan, execute, and learn triangle. So when you open your analytics on Wix, this is pretty much what you're going to see. You can do this both from the Wix app and from your dashboard. You'll get a quick overview of things like the number of visits on your site, unique visitors, bounce rates, new and returning visitors. This is a great tool to open just very quickly as soon as you launch your site and see what's happening. Again, through any campaign, you want to make sure that you're tracking this as well as using the external tools that you have. And when you want to take it to the next level, you'll be using our essential guide for getting traffic. This will have everything that we've spoken about up until now and more. Additional tips and tricks, more in-depth guides for each channels, things that you should definitely be implementing in order to build your site. We'll also be, guys, sending you the recording of this webinar, so feel free to watch it whenever you like. But until our next webinar, that's it for today. Thank you guys again for joining us, and we wish you the best of luck in promoting and growing the traffic that's going to be visiting your site. Bye-bye.